Coming up on the 49ers Report by Chat Sports, I'm your host, Jay Sr., a mailbag where I have a great opportunity to answer all of your 49ers questions and your boldest Niners opinions. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel by hitting that red sub button down below. We hit you with the latest news, rumors, watch parties in the fall for every single regular season game and hopefully the playoffs as well, live shows, and a whole lot more. Join the growing faithful family here at Chat Sports of north of 60,000 subs by subscribing today. We start off this mailbag with this $5 super chat coming in from Anthony. Thank you so much for your donation, brother. Hope the offensive line is good enough. Don't want Trey to get hurt and have Jimmy Garoppolo take over. We're not sure if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be on this team. Is there going to be a trade that happens and transpires to the Cleveland Browns, Carolina Panthers, or a different team? We will see. If Garoppolo is the backup and Trey Lance does get hurt, that's a good situation for San Francisco because we know what Garoppolo can bring to the table. He's won 71% of his starts. He has experience in this offense. He's well liked by the players as well as the coaching staff. Him being a backup is great. Him being a backup with a cap hit of a little less than $27 million is a little bit of a problem. You know, it could also be a problem, the offensive line. Let's say Trent Williams gets injured. The 49ers might be screwed, folks. That offensive line not only is a little bit thin in terms of depth, they're somewhat inexperienced. Like, they might start a couple of really young players and Aaron Banks at left guard, Jalen Moore along that offensive line, Spencer Burford potentially if Mike Glennon can't go at right tackle. A bunch of questions along the offensive line. We don't know who the starter is going to be. So, Anthony, I'm with you. Thank you for that $5 super chat. Road Goose won with this, over under 5.5 touchdowns for Aiyuk. I'm going to go over. I think Aiyuk puts forward a full season, and he plays really well. He's one of my breakout candidates for the Niners here going into the 2022 campaign. This guy has all the talent in the world. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent, and he was injured a little bit his rookie year. Last year was in the doghouse for the first 5-6 weeks of the year. Both of those years, he was on the precipice within 200, 300 yards of reaching that 1,000-yard receiving milestone. If he just becomes more consistent all throughout the year, he can reach that number. And if that's the case, I do expect some touchdown production from BA. What is your favorite thing about being a Niner fan? Let me repeat that question. Your favorite thing about being a Niner fan? Is it friendships? Is it family tradition? Is it the routine of watching this football team once a week and it's the one thing that you look forward to the most? I want to hear all of your explanations and all of your comments in the comment section right now. Let me know. I'll go back and chop it up with much of the faithful. Jamie Bryant next up. Chase, who are your breakout players this season and which players need to prove themselves? That's a great question because on our live show, we're talking about some bounce back candidates. So first, let me start off with breakout players. Brandon Aiyuk, Jawan Jennings. I think Javon Kinlaw is in both categories. He could be a breakout guy. He could be a guy who needs to prove himself. Other than that, I really want to see Charvarius Ward prove that he can be a number one cornerback because he's certainly getting paid like that, $14 million per year. Which running back is going to rise up? That has to do with breakout candidates as well as guys proving themselves. All along the offensive line outside of Trent Williams, there are players who need to break out and prove themselves in the trenches. Other breakout candidates, Kamoko Toure could be one. I don't often put rookies in that category because I don't know if they fit the bill of being a breakout candidate, but if Drake Jackson has 6 sacks as a rookie, I think that's a pretty solid breakout year. Ambry Thomas could be another one of those players. So I just gave you a whole host of names. Jamie Bryant, thank you for the question, and thank you for being a loyal subscriber. Speaking of loyal subscribers, Wet Noodle 187 is one of them. Are there any USFL players that we should take a look at? Honestly, I haven't had an opportunity to really look at that list. I know that the list is going to certainly grow among USFL players who can make the jump from that league to the NFL. Wet Noodle 187 doing a great job of using the hashtag 49ers. For those of you trying to get your questions answered during all of our mailbags, use the hashtag 49ers. Honestly, I wish I could tell you more about the USFL. We might do a big video on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel with some of the best players coming from that league. That league is about to wrap up. They might get some opportunities to play at the NFL level or at least get a training camp invite. Let's get our Rumble follower count to 500. You see how close we are. Currently, 465 people are following us on Rumble, where sometimes we go live exclusively on Rumble, as well as, sometimes put exclusive content out there. 465 followers on the Rumble side of things. We need 35 more to hit that number. Easy math for your boy who always struggles in that department. Follow us. It's rumble.com/49ers TV. BK from the Bay, do you think that Dino will be playing for the Niners this year? Your thoughts? I imagine you're talking about Deebo Samuel. It could also be about Demo, who is Diamador Lenore, but I imagine you're talking about Deebo because B is next to N on the keyboard. BK from the Bay, I got you, my brother. I do think that he's going to be playing for the Niners this upcoming season in 2022. And there was that report from Jeremy Fowler over the weekend that we talked about here on the show that Deebo Samuel has not rescinded that trade request, but it was a good sign that he showed up to minicamp after not having showed up to voluntary OTAs. I don't think Deebo Samuel can afford to get fined. This is a guy who has a base salary of $3.9 million going into 2022, and those California taxes are somewhat crazy, and Deebo Samuel has no long-term financial flexibility beyond this year, so he can't afford to get fined. You look at the previous history of how the Niners have been able to do business with contract extensions. Last year, Fred Warner. It was late July, early August. Same thing for George Kittle. I expect the same thing to happen with Deebo Samuel. What's of note is that deal that Terry McLaurin had signed. It's a short-term deal, like 3 years, $77 million, I believe, which is a little more than $25 million per year. You get Deebo Samuel on that price tag and that year count, considering the physicality in which he plays with, that'd be a pretty good value deal for San Francisco if there's something in the neighborhood of what McLaurin got from the Washington Commanders. Chua Lori's tuned in every single week. Be like Chua. We should make that a hashtag. Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get traded? What can the Niners get back? At this point in the offseason, I don't expect them to get much back for Garoppolo. I think you're looking at, a mid-round pick. Best case scenario, if a teams get desperate, maybe a third-round selection. But you have to consider this. Because Garoppolo is coming off an injury and because he's expensive and it's this late in the process, I'm not sure that a team is going to be willing to give up a lot for Garoppolo considering the injury and the price tag. So that right there, something to, of course, monitor when we talk about the Jimmy Garoppolo trade market. I want to ask you this question. This franchise has had a huge list of legendary players, but right now on this current roster, going into 2022, who is your current favorite 49ers player? Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Deebo Samuel, somebody else? You let me know in the comment section right now. Memphis, Maine. What up, Maine? Who do you think is going to be the 1 and 2 running backs? Appreciate the emojis there. Much love to you. Pound. I think it's going to be Elijah Mitchell at that one spot. Honestly, number 2 is a wide open competition between Jeff Wilson, JaMychal Hasty, 2 of the veterans, and then 2 of the young players, and Trey Sermon going into a big year too, and Ty Davis-Price, who was drafted in the 3rd round out of LSU. TDP, Trey Sermon, both drafted in the 3rd round in back-to-back years. Ideally, you have those 2 guys, considering where you drafted them and the production that you want from them as young players, to be that number 2. Could TDP unseat Elijah Mitchell if Mitchell continues to get banged up a little bit? Yeah, that could certainly happen. But right now, I think it's going to be Elijah Mitchell, and I think it's going to be everybody else on that running back depth chart here on San Francisco's roster in 2022. BirdDog379, Trey Lance over under 25 touchdowns. I think it's going to be something in that range. And if you're an odds maker, I think you're putting the betting odds together. You're looking at that number as something close to that because you have to add the running element to it too. Let's say he throws for 25 touchdowns and he runs for 8 more. That's 33 total touchdowns for this upcoming season. And as a guy who's entering his first full year as a starter, 33 total touchdowns is pretty good depending on how many interceptions that he throws. So I'm going to go over 25 touchdowns. I think it's going to be 26, 27, but I think he's going to add a handful of other touchdowns on the ground as well. I just don't want them to be a lot of designed quarterback runs. Maybe they happen when a play breaks down and he can use his legs. Andrew, why haven't the 49ers signed Mike Glennon yet? Because Mike Glennon is trash. Mike Glennon is not good. His career, is it going to be as long as his neck? We will see. Mike Glennon got that big payday back several years ago from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There is a reason why he didn't stick around as a starter and why he's failed and struggled to stick around as a backup. Honestly, though, Andrew, I was kind of throwing shade at Mike Glennon. Is he a better backup option than a guy like Nate Sudfeld? He might be. So if you trade away Garoppolo or you cut him without that having a big impact on your salary cap and you don't have confidence in Nate Sudfeld as your number 2, Mike Glennon might be a better option. Before we head out of here on this mailbag, make sure you give me a follow on social media at Chase_Senior. I've picked up a lot of followers from the Niner gang. Going to look to continue to add to that number. News, rumors, stories, video clips, a lot of really good takes on the Niners and some takes that you might disagree with, but that's the beauty of America, freedom of speech, baby. You can disagree with me and let me know that you disagree with me. But in order to let me know, got to give me a follow on Twitter and IG at Chase_Senior. Love chopping it up with the faithful.